Ladies and gentlemen, I am so honored to be the announcer for the Social Ninjas podcast. It took me 17 years to finally get the go-ahead and green light to be here. Kyle and Jeremy have been co-hosting the Social Ninjas for around a little over 6 months. It is by far my favorite podcast. Kyle Mitchell.
What up? you put in all that work, and I guess that just kind of came in pretty lame, but that's all right.
Hey, you did your best. I'm Jeremy. You're the Social
that.
Ninjas. I'm Jeremy. My co-host over here is Kyle. What's up, Kyle?
What up? There we go.
We have a special guest. Yes, we do. Isn't that right, Kyle?
That's my drum roll. Did you hear that?
Her name is Chell, and she's actually in the sea, in Chelsea, because her background of Zoom is in the sea.
Wow.
I didn't even catch that.
I didn't either.
Hello.
Hi, Chelsea. Chelsea, let's just get into it. Who are you? Tell us a little bit about your background and what you do.
Oh God, who am I, really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a lot of things, Jeremy. I'm a podcaster. I'm a musician. I'm a writer. And I guess I'm an Instagram personality, although I don't have that many followers yet, but working on it.
I like how you said yet.
Yeah, I like that too.
So
I have, I've got that growth mindset. And my podcast is called Dear Young Rocker, and it is a series of letters to my younger self. And also my younger self is in it with reverse aging technology. She tells the story of how she became a musician and survived high school as a person with very bad social anxiety, and who had very few friends and was a weird loner, and then started playing music. And yeah, that's mostly what I do, is work on that podcast.
that's amazing. How did you get into that?
How did I get into that? So, well, I wrote the story of my, young experience being a little loner and getting into music. I wrote that when I was in grad school, like as a memoir book. And then I didn't really know how to publish a book. And I tried, and people basically told me, like, you're not famous enough to publish a memoir. Like, a publishing house is only going to pay money to market a book that we know will sell. And since you still don't have that many friends, it's not going to sell. And, as a shy person, I only tried like a couple times, and then I was like, okay, I'll stop trying this. And then one day I just like had the idea to like make it into a podcast, because I thought podcasts were cool. And I had done some writing for a podcast, and yeah, decided to just make it myself, and I put it out independently. And it was really cool because I could just put it out into the world. I didn't need a publisher or some type of gatekeeper to be like, yes, we can put this out for you. I just did it. And then it got noticed by some people who really liked it and make other podcasts, and they helped me re-release it on iHeartRadio, which is where it is now living.
First off, you're right. Podcasts are cool.
Yep.
Second off, good for you for doing it, even though others says you couldn't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So can you tell us what that journey was like through high school?
Sure. Oh, man. Well, you got to listen to Dear Young Rocker to get the full experience. But basically, I had a lot of self-esteem issues. Like, I think pretty much everyone can identify, when you're like 12 or 13 and you start to really understand, like, these are the popular kids, they wear the right clothes, they say the right things, they have the right jokes. And I was just very hard on myself and never felt like anything I did or said or wore was ever going to be good enough for anyone else. And so instead of trying to connect with other people, I just kind of shut down, and I dressed really like goth. I wore, big baggy boys' clothes to just hide myself, and, like black makeup and purple hair, and it looked really scary. I went to a very preppy kind of Abercrombie school where people just looked like they were going to the beach or something, and I was like one of the only kids who looked weird. And I was just really angry all the time. I had a lot of like, you know, I was self-isolating, but I was angry at people also for not trying to be my friend, even though I was pushing them away. But I think in my own mind, I was just like, oh, I hate all these people. Like, I want to kill them or whatever. I mean, not really, but I had a lot of anger. And I think that's a thing that, you know, is talked about, like, oh, teen boys are angry. They want to fight and they want to punch people, but it's not supposed to be normal for girls to feel that way, but it is, because we all have hormones. Like, we all go through puberty and weird stuff happens in our brains with chemicals, and we get angry and we don't know how to deal with it. But as a girl, you're not allowed to like show that, or you're just going to be seen as like a freak. So I had another layer, because I was angry all the time. I was like, oh, I am really a freak. And would like hide myself away further and like put all that anger inside. But then I started listening to like rock music. I think my first rock band was like Linkin Park and like Blink 182. And I would just put on music with loud guitars, and I would just like jump around and headbang and feel great. And it was the only time I felt awesome. And I wanted to do that more. So I wasn't hanging out with friends. So I would like play bass. I would just play along to songs all night and like listen to my favorite CDs over and over and over again. And then eventually, one day I was in English class, and some kids sitting next to me were talking about their band, and they were like, oh, we need a new bass player. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I would never, like, I knew I would never go up to anyone and ask to play in their band, but they were sitting next to me and saying it. And I was like, it was like the very end of 9th grade. I hadn't talked to a single person all year. And I was like, I'm going to go through high school and not say one word to anyone. I know it. And I was like, I got to say it. I got to say it. I got to say it. And I was just like, can I try out? And they just like kept talking, because I was like a no one. And then I don't know how, but out of my mouth again, I was like, can I try out? And they were like, what? Yeah, sure. And then I got in a band. And then once I had a band, I had people I could talk to. And then once I met other people who played music, I could be like, hi, guitar, band. Like, I could say music things to people. And that just like kept me afloat through high school. And like, even kind of now, most of my friends are musicians. But that got me out to like go to shows and go to band practices and stuff. And that helped me like open up a little. So it was like the biggest thing in my life when I was young.
Oh, and you know what this reminds me of, Jeremy? I think it's a quote that you shared with me the other day. It was like, you're one action away from changing your life. That's what it reminds me of. Like, you actually had the courage, and you did it. You went against that resistor, and you made that decision. And because of that, it seems like your high school life definitely changed. I assume it was a lot easier than what it would have been had you just, stayed silent for, 4 years. So
yeah. And I didn't think I was going to I was like, as I was sitting there, like time slowed down, and I was like, I'm not going to say it. I know I'm not going to say it. And then I'm going to go home, and I'm going to like get so mad and punch a wall because I couldn't say it. And I just said it. And after that, I was still trying to tell myself like, oh, I have no confidence. I can't talk to anyone, but I did. That was like a big deal. I did it. So
you proved your resistor wrong. I like it's interesting. I think of this a lot, like the self-fulfilling prophecy, and just from my own experience, if I felt like no one liked me, so I kind of was on my own, a little social anxiety, and I didn't really talk to anyone, and I had it in my head. And then like not until like maybe within the last few years, I was like, maybe not everyone didn't like me. Maybe some people did like me.
Right.
So it's like in my head all the time. And I think a lot of people are so stuck up on like, or caught up on, do other people like me? You see their like hesitancy and as like they don't like you, but they actually don't. They're actually more nervous about like being liked. So there's like this, everyone wants to be liked and they don't really connect. I think it's really fascinating.
Yeah, especially in high school. Like, I mean, anytime I'm around a high school age kid now, I notice it immediately. Even kids who I can tell are more popular, you can just tell they're like, am I cool enough all the time? All of them. Like, everyone was in that same feeling at that
Everyone.
time. And I get people who email me all the time from my podcast, and they're like, oh, I'm a totally different person than you. You know, I'm like a man and I didn't play music or whatever. But I had that same feeling that you did about like not being good enough and feeling like I didn't fit in, and the same kind of anger and misplaced emotions. And I'm like, yeah, we all
Yeah.
kind of feel that, but we think we're alone in it. And that's the whole point of my show, is to be like, when you feel that way, you're actually in touch with all the other people who feel that way. You're not alone.
Yeah, it's like the blessing in disguise of, because I went through that, because you went through that, like you got really good at the bass indirectly. Now it's like part of
Right.
your passions, and now you have like a podcast on it. And
Right.
Kyle and I both went through social anxiety, so now we just met some incredible people doing the podcast, and then each other. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just like good that comes with the bad, right?
Right. Like, you know, if you watch teen movies or whatever, and it's only like the weird messed up kids who have no friends, and so you see that message and you're like, oh, I didn't have friends in high school. Like, did I just like do it wrong? Did I like mess up my whole life? And I was like, no, like things came from that, you know, made you.
Yeah, and right, and also on top of that, I want to bring it up. We had a neuroscientist on our podcast yesterday, and she said
Oh, cool.
she talks about like belief in lies, the lies we tell ourselves, and she says you
Ooh.
tell a lie enough, you're gonna actually believe it. And I think it's the same with self-talk. If I
Yeah.
say no one likes me, eventually I'm gonna believe that lie, and it's gonna become a fact.
Yeah. And those things are swimming in the subconscious, just like waiting for you to confirm it in the real world.
Yeah,
And
you can have like,
like
10 people say you're amazing, and then that one person says I don't like you, and you're like, "Huh, see, no one likes
knew
me."
it. Yep, I knew it.
They outweigh the 10.
Right.
Because it didn't match their internal dialogue or the internal belief system.
Right. That's the work, changing that internal subconscious stuff. I'm always working on it.
People like me, Chelsea.
People like me too.
Oh my God, they do.
And it's okay to say that. It's not conceited. My subconscious wants me to think I'm conceited for saying it, but I'm not.
Yes, I go through that all the time. Like, I don't want to come off as conceited or arrogant.
Right.
So like, where is that? I always want to do a podcast episode and like the difference between arrogance and self-confidence.
Yeah.
That'd be a good one.
That's a good one.
I don't remember what song it is, but I do remember there was a lyric in this one song, and he says, "I'm not cocky, I'm confident." And that was something that I heard a long time ago, and it just kind of clicked to me like, oh, it's not being cocky, like I'm just being confident in myself.
So you played in this band.
Yes.
You had friends now. You can talk music.
Yes.
And how did you break out of your shell with and become who you are now?
How did I break out of my shell? So like personality wise, I guess, as a beyond music, as a whole being.
Go see.
A lot of things. I think just a million little experiences.
Say more.
Some of that is, before we started recording, you had asked me about like how I've been talking about self-help books. There are a lot of books that, you know, have found me in my life and have really made a difference. I think one of the biggest ones is When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodron.
I read that in high school.
Yeah, I love that book. And Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. Classic, very old school book.
He also does 7 Daily Habits of Highly Effective People.
And How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Ooh.
I love like self-help by really old people that reads really cheesy, because it's really reassuring to me, because they're like, I've seen it all and I can tell you there's nothing to worry about. Like, life is simpler than you think it is. Like, I love just like a grandpa telling me like it's gonna be. I like that a lot better than the the kind of pop lit kind of books that are like, you can fucking rule your life, you fucking badass fucking bitch. Like, there's a lot of books out there like that right now. And I read them, and while I'm reading it, I'm like, yeah, I'm a badass, I'm so cool. But then I stop reading it, and I'm like, I didn't really learn anything. You told me I was a badass, like, thanks. But
And then the person's like, when I was younger, I'm like, you're 18. What do you mean?
yeah, exactly.
You're 18. I'm an 18-year-old life coach. I mean, I definitely used to get, I used to have charges against like 18-year-old life coaches. That's how you live your life. Like, you're 18. Like, and then I try, like, one of the things I do when I have a belief is as a practice, I pretend like I have the other side of the belief. So I'm like, what are you talking about, Jeremy? If an 18-year-old can change someone's life for the better, why does it matter? I'm like, thank you, me, other challenger of my belief side.
Wow. Yeah, that's one thing I think, and also I will say another thing that helped me is therapy. And I can't remember which, I've had a few in my life, but I remember one therapist would always say, what if the opposite were true? So whenever I'd be like, no one likes me, she'd be like, what if the opposite were true? What if every person you've ever met thinks you're amazing? Just imagine it. I'm like, whoa.
Chelsea, you're amazing.
You're amazing too. Thank you.
Well, if it was the opposite, I'm gonna answer your question. Then there's a chance that you may get rejected, and there's a chance that people might like you, and you can't hang out in victim, which is safer. It's way safer.
Oh yeah. I used to love it there.
Yeah, because there's no unknowns in like no one likes me, because you're like, oh, there's no one likes me and there's no one likes me. There's not people. Some people like me and some people don't like me. There's unknowns in that one. That one's scary.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I like that book, when things fall apart, because it's basically like everything is an unknown. Like, we want to cling to these certainties and pretend like, oh, like when I get more friends, or when I get that job, or like when I get married or whatever, like I'll feel secure and settled. And it's like, no, there's always crazy stuff happening every 2 minutes. And you have to just be like, yes, all of it. Okay. This is what's normal. Security is not normal. Like,
yeah, I like that you said that. It's so true. It's like, if you're not happy now, you'll never be happy.
Yeah. Because something will happen.
It's always easier said than done, though. I feel like sometimes it's just like, if you're not happy now, like, you're never gonna be happy. I'm like, but I'm not happy, so I'll never be happy.
Yeah, sometimes I'm still not happy. I mean, I've done a lot of self-help books. I've done a lot of therapy, as I said. I've done yoga, meditation classes, some of them have helped, for 5 minutes. Some of them have lasted, like, the effect's been like 6 months or a year, and then it wears off. But I still have, like, I came back from a vacation the other day, and I was just so sad to not be on vacation anymore. I just got in my bed and looked around my house, and I was like, this stupid house, I don't want to live here anymore. I want to be on vacation forever. And it was like the worst depression I've had in a long time. And it was just because I was coming back from vacation.
And perspective, yeah.
I was like, I'm just going to give myself permission to just cry for an hour and a half about it. Like,
that's great. Sounds lovely.
I just had to cry about it.
Sometimes it could cry. It could be such a cathartic experience. I'm like, I feel so awful right now. Oh my God. What could I do? I can eat. I could, I could drink. I could do all sorts of stuff to distract myself from my emotions. I can do all sorts of terrible things. Maybe what if I just feel it? What if I just cry?
Yeah, that's what I did. I was like, should I just like order a pizza? And I was like, no, I'm just gonna cry.
I freaking hug myself and cry and say everything's gonna be okay to myself.
Yeah, and that's another technique I've actually learned, is to, like, you can. It's probably been said in a million different ways, like, lean into the emotion or whatever. But I can't remember what book I read it in, but it said, like, if you're, when you suddenly feel depressed or you suddenly feel anxious, it feels like you're going to die from that feeling. Like, you're like, I can't, like, handle this feeling. I am going to die if I feel it any stronger. So it said to, like, when that happens, to just try and die from being sad, to just sit there and be like, I'm going to be as sad as I possibly can right now. Like,
multiply it by times
"Wah,"
10.
and it just like goes away. You like can't make yourself be more sad or like be more anxious.
It's so weird.
It's
like
so weird.
when I resist feeling that emotion is when it actually like has power over me. Like if I'm not scared of that emotion anymore, then it doesn't have power over me.
Yeah. Yeah. But you gotta keep reading those lessons over and over again. It's like I know all this stuff and I can tell it to other people, but you know, I still gotta buy another book and like have another talk about it and whatever. Watch another YouTube video about it.
It's a practice, you know, like I
It's always a journey.
Yeah.
What do you think, Kyle?
This kind of lead me what I was wanting to ask. So how do you, like you said earlier, like this is a journey, it's a process. So what do you do to keep moving forward? Like you said, you watch YouTube videos, you know, read self-help books. Well, what else do you do?
Yeah, I recently got into TikTok, which might be banned soon, so hopefully not. But if you like, TikTok's so big, like any other platform, if you show it that you like certain stuff, you'll find people who do that. There's actually some really amazing like therapists and self-help people on TikTok, and I just watched some like 100 of some lady's videos today. I like watched every video she made because they just made me feel amazing. And she was saying stuff that I've heard before. Again, it was like, you got to, you know, change your self-talk and change your subconscious beliefs. But she just said it in this like really, she was like kind of crazy. She was like, you got to get it in your head that you got to change these words. And then the way she did it just made me like so happy. So TikTok's been great for me. But I do, you know, I have a therapist I talk to every week, and she's not the kind who will like tell me to do anything. She's not like, do this exercise. She just, no matter what I say to her, whenever I complain about anything, she's like, oh, like, that's no big deal. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's not a big deal. I thought it was a big deal. Because it's not a big deal. And it, like, at first I thought she was just a terrible therapist because she would never be like, oh, you should try journaling or try, like, she never says anything like that. She's just like, that's okay. She's like a really understanding mom, which I don't have. So she's great.
I want to do a fun little exercise. And I want you to kind of get comfortable in your chair, feel the gravity. Yeah, feel that. And in this place, I want you to tell or talk to you in high school. What would you say to her knowing what you know now? She's struggling, she's angry, she's going through it.
Well, hopefully she would listen to me because I didn't want to listen anyway. But I'm like, hey.
If she's listening to you.
I am you, so you have to listen to me. Like, sorry, I know I look like a normie now. I don't have purple hair anymore. I promise. I'm still cool. I'm still in a band. Don't worry about that. I'm still playing music. I am so happy that you have picked up that bass guitar. And I know sometimes you want to just break it against the wall, but you need to play that thing every day because even though you think you're sitting in your room alone like a loser, when you play that instrument and you play along to a song, you're connected to everyone who's ever listened to that song and everyone who's ever played it. Like, you're connected into the fabric of the universe and you are a social being. You just think you aren't because of the way you were raised, which we won't get into too much, but you were not raised to be social. And that's okay. That's not your fault. And it's nothing to be angry about. I know you're angry at your parents for a lot of things, and I get why. You will forgive them. They were just doing their best because their parents did their best and were also very flawed too, and theirs before them. So don't worry about that because everyone's parents did something wrong. Don't spend your time worrying about that, and don't spend your time worrying about the kids in the Abercrombie clothes. They are just as insecure as you, and they're probably like totally fucking up their lives by like getting really drunk every night, and like I know some of them have gone to rehab. Like, you don't want to even be them. You don't even think they're cool. You don't like doing what they do, so don't worry about if they like you. Who cares? You're cooler, you and your Hot Topic clothes. You look great. And that's actually gonna be like in style in like 20 years for some reason. So what you're doing now, you're just ahead of time, kid. Like, you're doing so good. You think you are doing high school all wrong. You're doing better than anyone. You just don't know it yet. You're preparing to have like a way cooler adulthood. All those popular kids, they're gonna have 3 kids and work at the bank and like be miserable and still stay in that town you're in. Like, you're fine. You're great.
Yes. Does she hear you?
I think so. She's like, really? Okay, you do look awful normie, but thanks, old lady.
Are you open to having her back for now on? Little high school version of you? You got her back for now on?
Yeah. She's my best buddy. She's I'm like giving her a noogie and she's like, no, stop touching me. But I don't like touching. I'm like, yes, you do. You were desperate for hugs and you secretly write poems about it, and I know you do.
Jeremy will give you a hug. He's good at hugs.
Aww.
Free.
Yeah, I know.
Doesn't even charge.
I know.
Sweet.
That was good. Thank you for doing that. I just felt called to do that for some reason. It felt right in the moment.
Yeah, I love doing it. And I hope you talk to your younger self too.
Oh, I do.
Kyle knows. Good.
I'm like, I don't want to get out of bed sometimes. And I'm like, it's okay, Jeremy. I know you don't want to get out of bed. I get it. Come on. We can do this. And then I brush my teeth. I like how you brushed your teeth. That was good. I know you weren't even in the mood and you did. And I'll drop something. It's okay. It happens. I used to think it was ridiculous, and then I did it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this feels really good.
Yeah, that's one thing I think would be hard to explain to my younger self, is that the things that work the best for mental health are the things that when you're younger seem like the cheesiest, stupidest. Like, when you first encounter them, you're like, excuse me, and those are always the things that help me the most, are the like silly ones.
What do you think of this idea? And I've thought about this recently. I have the theory that things are labeled as cheesy because they're very challenging to do. So people have labeled them as cheesy in order to have an excuse to not put the work into those challenging things.
Yeah. And to write them off and to be like, I'm better than that, when they're just scared to do them. Yeah, I think that's right.
If you're listening, is your mind blown a little bit, or what are your thoughts?
That's just me throwing out mind-blowing things again.
Why isn't our audience saying anything? What is going on?
I guess nobody's listening right now. Hopefully later.
Oh, do people listen to this live? Are you kidding? Oh my God. I was like, where are they?
Someone just starts talking like, whoa!
I was like, is your show that big? You have like live shows?
With millions of listeners. Millions. Listen, Keanu Reeves, I know you're listening. You're great in the Matrix. Let's hang out next week, Thursday. Cool.
Ooh.
Speaking of talking to younger selves, you said that in your podcast that your younger self is in your podcast. So I was just curious what that was like. Are you saying like you come out with like Jeremy's little like side voice / his younger self where he starts talking? Like, how does that go? I haven't listened to the podcast.
Well,
but
since I don't actually have a time machine, full disclosure, I voice both parts. So basically how it works is that they're like a 30-minute episode, and the first like 20 minutes are first person from back in time. So the episode will open and it will be like, I'm walking down the hall, the popular kid looks at me and I run into the bathroom and then I go find my bandmates. So I'm like real time explaining what's happening, and I do a ton of sound effects. So I'll be like, I go into the bathroom, and then at home as I'm making the podcast, I have my recorder. I literally will go into my bathroom and like turn the doorknob and record that. And then I'll say in the podcast, and me and my band do band practice. So you know, and I explain the whole scene. I don't just say do band practice, but I'll like record myself going down the stairs, and then I'll record myself picking up all the instruments of a band, and I will play them, and I will record all of that and set it up to sound like a real band playing. And so I do all that. And then I have to jump scenes because I can't remember everything that happened in high school. So I'll jump from like freshman to sophomore year or like whatever. It's in order, but there's parts I can't remember. So to fill the gaps, I'll just like, I make all the music for the podcast. I'll like play a little like song for a few seconds. And then after like 20 minutes of that happening, there's this sound cue that plays that signals that big like current me, old me is coming in. And you hear like the sound of a keyboard typing, and it's me writing a letter to younger self about what just happened. And I'll say, like, I'll address whatever the theme was, like, hey, it really wasn't right of that, like, of your drummer to like kiss you without you wanting to, and then deciding he's your boyfriend, and then making you like ruin your whole social life when you broke up with him because he made the band fall apart or whatever. And like, I'll explain all these things to her that at the time I thought was just me being an idiot. Like, I was like, oh, I should have been like not a prude and like knew how to kiss people or whatever is, what I thought at the time. And now I'm like, no, that's called like violating your consent. Like, that's not okay. And whatever. Or like, when you wanted to punch a wall, like that's because you were having a panic attack, but you don't know what a panic attack is yet because you're not going to find out till you're like in college. And so I just help her like with all the stuff that at the time she didn't know, what it was. And I hope that through that process, like people who are listening to that, who maybe they are 14 right now and they're going through that and they're like, oh my God, like maybe I have panic attacks or whatever, or older people who went through that as a teen and never processed it and like never got any help. They write me all the time, like, I just started going to therapy for the first time because I heard your show or something. And I'm like, really? Wow. So it's kind of like, it's me talking to myself technically, but I like do so much production that I try to make it sound natural. And so far, I think people believe it. So yeah.
Wow. Sounds amazing.
Yeah. I'm telling you, Jeremy, we need a soundboard.
You gotta be like do little sound effects like or whatever.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah. I do my joke, it doesn't land, which it happens, it's life. Wah, wah, wah. And then I tell like a joke that's amazing, because that also happens sometimes, throw spaghetti at the wall, almost stick. And that's the joke that laughs. I guess the laughs Kyle's reaction.
Aw.
Nailed it. So I want to ask you one question that we like to ask all our guests, and that is, if you had the ability to send a message to everybody in the world, what would that message be?
Oh my God.
And don't worry, everyone is listening.
Everyone in the world is listening to me?
Live. Live.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so we need the
man,
heartbeat.
Wow, yeah, this is social anxiety
No pressure.
nightmare.
No pressure. No pressure.
Every person in the world is looking at you. Ah! Like, I get so nervous just knowing that whatever number of people listen to my podcast. I'm like, oh, that's so many people. I think just back to the cheesy thing, you are okay as you are. That's it. You're doing great.
Hold on, let's just like grab onto that cheesy story. Throw that away. That is amazing.
Yeah. Okay, here's my revelation. You are okay as you are.
I like it.
Short and sweet.
You are okay just as you are?
Yep.
I love it. Well, thanks for coming on. If someone is looking to check out your Dear Young Rocker, they can go on iHeartRadio only, or is it?
Nope, it's on anywhere you get your podcasts.
Beautiful. And then you also have a Instagram as well, huh?
I do, and it's also Dear Young Rocker.
And do you think people should support the Social Ninjas Patreon?
Yes. Because it's really hard to get money for podcasts, and there even if you're not doing sound design or anything, it's still a lot of work, and you deserve to get money.
Thank you. Well, thanks for coming on. And if you like this podcast, give us a 5-star and a little bit of a rating. Chelsea's you're actually the one who told me to ask for reviews. And
give them money, give them reviews, give them everything.
And if you don't like our podcast, just make sure to not leave a review, okay? But I still love you. I'm telling you, I still love you. I get it. It's okay. You can't please everyone. Until then, we'll see you everybody next week. Thanks for listening.
Bye.